So the teacher isn't getting to pick questions anymore?
No, what the teacher's going to do is the teacher's going to say, here's where I think the level of understanding is.
Okay.
And then questions will be generated accordingly,
Ooh, maybe from a Gaussian.
maybe from a Gaussian.
Okay.
And in fact, what I'm going to suggest we do is that we're going to say you need to pick a line. Now, why should you pick one line over the other? Because I'm going to set up the incentive so that you get +1 anytime the learner answers correctly something they should get wrong.
Oh.
But you also get +1 whenever the student gets something incorrect that they should get right. So what does that mean? So if you say, well, this is where their level of understanding is, what you're really doing is you're kind of picking two questions, right? You're saying, well, this is a question that they should get right, and this is a question they should get wrong. But if you've actually identified where their level of understanding is, then sometimes they'll get some of these things wrong that they should get right because they're easier, and sometimes they'll get right some of the things that they should get wrong. I sort of set up the problem that way.
Okay.
Right? And I'm going to get credit for that.
You're the teacher,
You, the teacher. I'm the teacher going to get credit for that. Well, let's see. What does that mean? Well, that means in order for that to work, I must have identified more or less correctly where your level of understanding is as a learner.
Because if you set it too high, the learner's always going to get things wrong, but there are things that the learner should get wrong, so there's no points to the teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And if you set it, the teacher sets it too easy, the bar down towards the bottom, then the learner's never getting anything wrong. And when it gets things right, it's things that the learner should get right. And again, should just means below the bar set by the teacher.
That's right. So you'll get some points by doing that, but you
Yeah.
won't get as many as if you get it right where they ought to be.
So the maximum comes when you've done this 50-50 thing, right? Where you're getting points for the learner stretching a little bit, getting a little bit above and scoring well. And you're getting points for, I guess, tricking the student in a sense. Like,
I would say tricking, but you really is you're sort of testing where their understanding really is, right? So if it's the case that if I identify this correctly, you will still get some things wrong that we would think you would get right, and you'll get some things right that we think you would get wrong, you really want to do it on both sides. And so if I move this line too far to one side, I only get points for one side of the bar. If I move things this far, all the way over to the right, I only get points for the other side of the bar. I want to get things for both sides of the bar. And so that's only going to happen if I can identify roughly where your level of understanding actually is.
that's clever.
That is kind of clever.
Did you come up with this?
I came up with this by listening to a guy named Jordan Pollock when he told me this is what he ended up doing with a real class of, I think, 5th graders.
Oh, interesting.
Now, by the way, there's something subtle here. We actually aren't finished with this. We just described this as if it only happens once. Really, what we did is we spent our time talking about the teacher. And that makes sense because, the teacher has this complicated incentive function, right? So the teacher's going to get credit for basically identifying where your level of understanding is. So let's say I've done that. I know where your level of understanding is. I put the line here.
Good.
What's going to happen for you as a learner? Your goal is still to maximize your points. So how do you maximize your points?
From the learner's perspective, just try to always answer correctly.
Right. So how are you going to start answering things correctly? Getting more and more things right?
By learning?
By learning, by actually moving your actual bar to the right.
Oh, I see.
Because then you will not get these things wrong anymore, and you will get these things right. And so you will increase the number of points that you get.
Got it.
So then this will cause you to learn more so that you can get more things right. And then what's going to happen to the teacher?
Teacher's going to be unhappy? Well, the teacher could move the bar to the right
Right.
to kind of catch up to where you actually are.
Right. So the learner is incentivized to learn, and the teacher is incentivized to understand really what the learner has learned. And they will keep pushing each other until you've learned everything.
Ooh, and then no one has any incentives anymore.
Yeah, but at that point, you know everything, and you're a teenager.
Well, I was worried about this case where, so then the learner feigns ignorance for a little while so the teacher can move the bar down and then starts getting things right and wrong again. Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's not really a concern.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay.
And even if it is, the teacher will immediately figure this out, and the learner will be giving up points in the meantime.
Yeah.
That's not really the maximal policy. I mean, you'd have to get it exactly right.
Right. It's just that once the learner's learned everything, the teacher has no incentive anymore.
Sure, but then once the learners learn everything, then you're done.